Alrighty, what's up guys? Figured I'd come at you with probably one of the last Jeep updates of the season. Haven't made a video in a minute, so figured I would make a video while I am back out here at the old stomping grounds for the Jeep. Haven't been here and haven't taken this car here in 2 years, so this is the first time it's out here. It did good going up here. It did good putting around. It didn't get too hot. The highest it got was probably 190 on the way here. It gets a little warm at stoplights if you're sitting there for a while, but as soon as you start to move again, it kind of cools back down, so that's nice. Not really sure where I left off in the last video, so I'll just kind of quickly recap what's been done so far and what I'm pretty sure I've done since the last video. So I got my ATK 357 in. That thing's been running great. Haven't had any issues with it, with the engine itself. The one issue I'm having is there's an oil leak at the back of the intake manifold that is definitely the China wall. So I'm gonna have to, I have another intake manifold that I'm gonna be swapping on it either at the end of the season or next year in the spring. Either or, it doesn't really matter. And also the downpipes that came with these Summit manifolds, it's not really, you can't really see it, but they're not just like one piece. It's like a normal downpipe where it has the flange and then the little coupler ring, and I don't think that even works on these manifolds. These manifolds kind of have a chamfer on the edge, as if it's supposed to be like the socket end of a ball and socket flange, or maybe you're supposed to put like one of those graphite manifold rings in there, but it doesn't say that on the Summit website. And these are the Summit cast steel ceramic manifolds. But the issue I've been having is these manifold gaskets are just blowing out. This is the second or third set that I put on here, and no matter how tight I get those bolts, those gaskets are just going to blow out because they're not even sealing all the way, because the flange on the pipe is obviously hitting before you can get the gaskets to seal to both the ring and the manifold, so it doesn't even seal at all. So it's not terrible. It's not like a huge as you're driving down the road, but like on diesel you kind of get that flutter where I've had, my old Bronco did that when it had messed up exhaust manifolds. So it's definitely, it has to be that gasket surface. I mean, it could also be my flex pipe, but we're not going to talk about that. I'll mention that later on in the video when I get to future plans. But I think really, not really sure. Again, I don't really remember where I left off the last video, but I got my seat belts put in. These are the seat belt solutions flat belts that you can buy on Quadratech. The other blue that they had, I felt like it didn't match that well, and also there's like 15 different shades of blue on this car, so I don't really care. I got my shifter in. Shifter works good, it's adjusted. The only real weird thing about it is if you click it all the way back, it's first, and then you can push it forward, and then there's 2 notches. The bottom notch is, so you pull it out of park, reverse, neutral, and then you're in third, and then the neutral lockout comes down. Then you pull the handle, you pull it back to second, and then you can, without pulling the handle, pull it back, and then that's first. And then if you pull the handle again and pull it back, it's still first. So I don't know if this shifter is meant for an overdrive transmission. I can't really tell. Either way, it works fine. There's just two firsts. You know, I don't really notice anything weird, like, you know, if I'm in the higher notch for first, it doesn't like slip out or anything, so I'm not too concerned with that. I got a new head unit and speaker system, so I replaced the $30 Amazon Boss Audio radio that was in here for 2 years, 3 years with an Alpine head unit, and then I replaced the two kickers that came with this sound pod with a different set of kickers, and these ones are better. I like them more because they have the mesh grill. The other ones kind of had that plastic grill that's like an X with like a plus through it, and I like the design of these better. It just looks cleaner, it looks less chintzy. And then I got these I forget what they're called, it's like something pod, obviously, but buy these on Quadratech. I think Select Increments makes them, not quite sure, but you can see them on Quadratech. They make these for CJs and YJs, and I think TJs too, but they go in between the wheel well and the roll bar, and it fills in that space. It gives you a cup holder, which is nice. I mean, it's a really shallow cup holder. I wouldn't actually like leave a cup there without holding it if I'm driving, but and obviously it has two 6x9 speakers in it. I got Boss Audios, so, or that's what came with them, which it said on the Quadratech website that it was going to come with a different brand of speaker, and then it came with Boss Audios, so I was a little disappointed with that, but they don't sound bad. And then I think the last thing I've done recently, well, two things. I don't remember if I did it in the last video, but I got new tires on it. So the rears are 275 60/15s, and the fronts are 225 70/14s. So I think the fronts are like an inch or two shorter than the rears, so it kind of gives it that lifted up look in the back. This is pretty much as wide as I wanted to go, because I mean, before I got these are best top wide fender flares. I got them as a set of 4. The fronts look goofy, so I ended up throwing those out, but I got them as a set of 4 off Facebook Marketplace for $50, which is an insane deal, considering if you look on Quadratech, a new set of wide fender flares is like at least $200, I think, for a full set. And I mean, the other problem I would have had was these screws that hold the little support bracket. I think on both sides these are stuck in, and this one's actually, the nutsert is completely detached from the sheet metal of the fender. Not that it matters. That was a bunch of rust jacking that I went to put the fender on, and it was just sticking out, and so I just ended up going crazy and knocking this all out. But I mean, that's not like the worst part of rust on the whole car, so I don't really care. Again, I didn't build this car to be a show car. I built it to drive. Yeah, like you can see on this side, this is where the nutsert actually did end up ripping out. So if I wanted to put those fender flares on anyway, I'd have to get new fenders or figure out some way to chop out that stuck in nut. But it's not really worth it, because these fenders are both pretty trashed. I mean, this one, I have body filler in it that, you know, obviously I would rather be able to see that it's there. Yeah, as far as issues go, I haven't had any major issues with the car, apart from the oil leak, and oh well, you know, now that I remember it, I went to here. I'll pop the hood. Set you guys down. So a few weeks ago, I went to do a burnout in it. You know, I was driving around a couple friends, and I went to do a burnout in it, and the welds on the leaf spring brackets on the axle that I moved broke. The rear end went nose up, spat the drive shaft out the back, and so I had to get towed home. I ended up having to get my drive shaft repaired because the one of the ears for the U-joints was completely caved in. I wouldn't have been able to get the U-joint out to replace it, and I didn't feel like leaving it there. So that was the first major issue. That wasn't too much of a pain in the butt to fix. I just had to pop the rear end out, jack it up, re-weld these. I ended up remeasuring to re-square the rear end just to make sure, since I got, you know, the chance, just in case I messed something up the first time. So now I know the rear end's completely square, even left to right, so that's nice. And then I think 2 weeks ago, I went on a date, and I went to pick up my date with the Jeep, and like 2 minutes away from our house, we're going down the road, and I hit a bump, and I kid you not, I hear a ka-chunk, and then the engine shuts off. I'm like, oh crap, what the hell happened? And I had it happen before, where I started, back when I put the 355 in this thing, I started up the Jeep, and I cranked it up, and it started up and it ran fine, and then after like 2 seconds, I guess that key switch that I have in there is, I mean, it is really loose. It's a crappy key switch, but it ended up sticking the starter engaged while it was running, so it had a grinding noise. So I was like, oh, that's what that is. Maybe it just, like, I don't know, locked up the engine with the starter. And so I went to try and crank it again, and it just chicked. So I got out, I looked at it, and I was like, oh. What happened was the engine mount bracket, the welds broke off the frame, engine dropped down, and the engine mount bracket was sitting on top of the snout for the rear end, the front end. So that was fun. I had to get my brother to tow me back home again. I really appreciate the relatively free tow service, but I ended up having to re-weld that. I forget if I had to do anything else besides re-weld that. I don't think so, but yeah, and then obviously I have that oil leak at the back of the intake, which is a pain in the ass. You know, I tried putting new O-ring, new seals on the distributor, which now that I'm actually looking at it, it does look a little bit wet down there. So I don't know. I really don't know if it's the intake or if it's that distributor, because on the one hand it could be the intake. I honestly don't really think it is, because I mean, you could see the amount of RTV I used on the front, and I used just as much RTV on the back. You'd think that no, it is kind of leaking out of the front a little bit. See those two little dark spots. So I think it's a combination, because it's probably a combination of there's not enough RTV, or maybe I didn't let it cure long enough, and the fact that that distributor is a cheap Amazon Chinese distributor. So I think when I end up, you know, taking this back apart to fix that oil leak, I'm gonna end up getting a GM genuine distributor or something and putting that in. I don't know if that distributor is machined wrong, because the reason I even had to, so I've had this problem before. I had it on the 355. I ended up putting 2 distributor gaskets on it instead of 1, because I saw online that a lot of people had that issue, and then they put 2 on and it fixed it. And it was always people that had aftermarket distributors or aftermarket intakes. So I was like, oh, well, maybe it's, you know, that distributor's machined wrong or something. Because the other thing I would notice was when I had just one gasket on there, I would really have to crank down on that clamp to get it to stop turning the distributor. So I figured, you know, that distributor is probably bottoming out on the oil pump drive rod and not letting it sit down on the intake far enough. So that's my theory, is the oil leak on the distributor is because it's a Chinese distributor. It's probably machined wrong. They probably didn't have their eyes, you know, clear that day. But so that's probably that. The intake, I probably just didn't have enough RTV on. So I'm still gonna end up swapping that other intake on, because the other intake's a brand new one. This one's been used. The coolant passages are a little dirty. So I think that's the plan. So basically over the winter, this thing's gonna get parked under the house to get more space in the garage. It's gonna be outside, but I'm gonna have a tarp on it, and the house overhangs it by a lot, so I'll be able to park it fine without worrying about it getting wet, obviously. I mean, there's no chance it would get wet, and then I really just have the tarp on it to keep dirt out of it. But over the winter, I'm gonna save up money for a soft top, because that would really improve my ability to drive this on days that aren't perfectly clear. I'm gonna save up for a soft top. I am debating on some other stuff, like I kind of want to get a new bumper. This bumper is, the paint on it's really crappy. I painted it years ago, and the paint on it's poor. I don't really like it that much. It's full of, you can see it's like full of rock chips now. I don't even think that's like from me driving it. That's probably from before, because when I got this car, and I mean, I think you can still kind of see in the paint, there's rock chips everywhere. The whole front end was covered in rock chips really badly, and so, you know, when I repainted it, I never even put body filler on it. I just kind of scuffed it down as much as I could, sandpapered it, whatever, and, you know, sprayed over it. I'm debating getting a new bumper. I'll probably end up getting a new set of these caps, because I do prefer these caps over not having caps. I think it looks a little cooler. It kind of rounds off the front end more, because normally the bumper stops here, so you kind of have this dead space where the fender still sticks out. And, you know, if I had fender flares on this, it would be completely lined up. And so I want to get soft top, possibly a new front bumper, and some other little stuff, like I want to get tailgate hinges, because these are shot. I mean, they're fine with no bump, with no tire on it, but when you put a tire on it, every time you hit a bump, it's, so yeah, I want to get that. I think I want to get new door handles all around. If they make new key cylinders, I want to get new key cylinders for it. I believe the last time I looked, when I was getting stuff to rebuild these half doors, they don't make the key cylinders for the half doors anymore. So that's a little bit of an issue, but not really, because these ones are still black, I think. Let me go check on the other side, but I'm pretty sure they're still both black. Yeah, so I really just want to get new door handles and probably new door panels. And when I take these doors apart, I'm going to paint this door to match the rest of the car. Get new door panels, maybe new door hinges. I'm not really sure on that, because like on this side, when I took this door apart, these bolts both snapped off and I had to drill them out, and the new bigger hardware I got doesn't sit flush anymore. So That's slightly an issue. I guess I could get the same size hardware and use a nut and a bolt, but I don't really know. Yeah, maybe get new hinges. And there's probably some other little stuff, but like I'm debating painting the underside of the hood because it's a little crusty looking. And I need mirrors on the sides because, I mean, legally I can drive it like this. There's no issue there, but I really want to be able to see. You know, then I would be able to maybe drive this thing on the highway if I needed to. I mean, to get here I had to pull onto the highway because they had a road blocked off, so yeah. And then, I mean, apart from that, it's pretty much it. I mean, this thing's, as far as drivability is concerned, it's done. You know, I can pretty much hop in this thing and drive it, no major issue. The only slight issue that it has is that getting warm at stoplights, which is, you know, definitely due to the lack of a fan shroud, but I can't even squeeze a fan shroud in there if I wanted to. I mean, there's the clearance between the fan and the radiator hose, so I couldn't even get a fan shroud in there if I wanted to. I would have to run electric fans, which I don't really want to do, but that might be something that I explore, is running electric fans. Yeah, drivability, other than that, there's no issues with this thing. Lighting, there's no issues. Interior wise, there's no issues. The only thing that, like, the stuff that I listed that I want to buy for it over the winter is pretty much everything that I want to get to finish this car. And that it would be done, basically. Done to the extent that I can do it. You know, the only thing that would make it more complete is having it professionally bodyworked, which, as much as I love this car, I don't really see it being worth that. If I end up going that route, I would end up buying a new set of fenders, a new hood, probably new half doors, new windshield frame, because this one's beat to shit and has a million holes in it. It's solid, but it's beat up. But yeah, I mean, if I wanted to go professional bodywork, I'd have to buy all new body panels. So basically, over the winter, this thing's gonna be, or at least I'm gonna try to have this thing totally done. And then, you know, next summer will be the first full summer of being able to actually drive this thing whenever I want. This summer was nice. I was able to drive it a lot. I would have liked to drive it more, but yeah, obviously there were some unseen hurdles, like that last engine blowing up. I really hope that 355 would last till the end of the season, but at the same time, I'm really glad that I got a new engine in this thing. That's just one major piece of insurance. You know, I don't have to worry about the engine blowing up as much, but there's still a chance. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video, guys. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them down in the comments. But yeah, I will say, if I don't buy stuff for this, I may very well end up saving money for another utility vehicle, something like a pickup truck or something. Just to A, be able to haul junk around, and B, be able to haul junk around. You know, be able to tow this thing, because the gas mileage that this thing gets, I would probably be better off towing it if I wanted to go out of state to go to a car show or something. But yeah, that's what's in the books for next year, I think, is finish the Jeep and get a pickup truck, have more content to put on the channel, But yeah, I really appreciate you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.